welcome to Heavy Storytelling. How are you doing today? We are going to be reading a story. But first up, we are going to be reading the Bible. Then we are going to be doing the synopsis with Kimberly. Then we are going to be reading The Hobbit. I hope you guys enjoy this video. And if you enjoyed the last video, I think you should watch this one too. So, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss another video. Hi, Granny Bear. Yay. Hi, Mom. I hope you enjoyed this video. And here is my dad to read the Bible.
She says good evening, family.
Hi, how is everyone?
Good evening.
Good evening. Oops, I didn't mean to do that, sorry. I've got a little bar up at the top and I don't know why, but that's okay. I'm going to just ignore it. I'm going to ignore it, not ignore. Ha 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 ha. What?
I forgot one more thing.
Yeah, it was an accident.
I forgot one thing.
What?
I'm going to be telling you the first word after the synopsis.
I better hide this book so that he doesn't cheat. All right, so this is chapter 11 from the book of Luke. This is the English Standard Version of the Bible. Did you see me? I'm crocheting here. Sort of see you. All right, okay. So enough of that. So this is, like I said, chapter 11, Luke, English Standard Version. All right. Now Jesus was praying in a certain place, and when he finished, one of his disciples said to him, "Lord, teach us to pray, as John taught his disciples." And he said to them, "When you pray, say, Father, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, give us each day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, for we ourselves forgive everyone who is indebted to us, and lead us not into temptation." And he said to them, "Which of you who has a friend will go to him at midnight and say to him, 'Friend, lend me 3 loaves, for a friend of mine has arrived on a journey, and I have nothing to set before him?' And he will answer from within, 'Do not bother me, the door is now shut, and my children are with me in bed. I cannot get up and give you anything.' I tell you, although he will not get up and give him anything, because he is his friend, yet because of his impudence, he will rise and give him whatever he needs. And I tell you, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks it will be opened. What father among you, if his son asks for a fish, will instead of a fish give him a serpent? Or if he asks for an egg, will give him a scorpion? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will the Heavenly Father give the Holy Spirit to those who ask him?" Now he was casting out a demon that was mute. When the demon had gone out, the mute man spoke, and the people marveled. But some of them said, "He casts out demons by Beelzebul, the prince of demons," while others, to test him, kept seeking from him a sign from heaven. But he, knowing their thoughts, said to them, "Every kingdom divided against itself is laid waste, and a divided household falls. And if Satan also is divided against himself, how will his kingdom stand? For you say that I cast out demons by Beelzebul, and if I cast out demons by Beelzebul, then by whom do your sons cast them out? Therefore they will be your judges. But if it is by the finger of God that I cast out demons, then the kingdom of God has come upon us. When a strong man, fully armed, guards his own palace, his goods are safe. But when one stronger than he attacks him and overcomes him, he takes away his armor in which he trusted and divides his spoil. Whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters. When the unclean spirit has gone out of a person, it passes through waterless places seeking rest, and finding none, it says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when it comes, it finds the house swept and put in order. Then it goes and brings 7 other spirits, more evil than itself, and they enter and dwell there. And the late state of that person is worse than the first. As he said these things, a woman in the crowd raised her voice and said to him, Blessed is the womb that bore you, and the breast at which you nursed. But he said, Blessed rather are those who hear the word of God and keep it. When the crowds were increasing, he began to say, This generation is an evil generation. It seeks for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of Jonah. For as Jonah became a sign to the people of Nineveh, so will the Son of Man be to this generation. The queen of the south will rise up at the judgment with the men of this generation and condemn them, for she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And behold, something greater than Solomon is here. The men of Nineveh will rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. For they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and behold, something greater than Jonah is here. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it in the cellar or under a basket, but on a stand, so that those who enter may see the light. Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. But when it is bad, your body is full of darkness. Therefore, be careful lest the light in you be darkness. If then your whole body is full of light, having no part dark, it will be wholly bright, as when a lamp with its rays gives you light. When Jesus was speaking, a Pharisee asked him to dine with him, so he went in and reclined at a table. The Pharisee was astonished to see that he did not at first wash before dinner. And the Lord said to him, Now you Pharisees cleanse the outside of the cup and of the dish, but inside you are full of greed and wickedness. You fools! Did not he who made the outside make the inside also? But give as alms those things that are within, and behold, everything is clean for you. But woe to you, Pharisees, for you tithe mint and rue every herb, and neglect justice and the love of God. These you ought to have done without neglecting the others. Woe to you, Pharisees, for you love the best seat in the synagogues and greetings in the marketplaces. Woe to you, for you are like unmarked graves, and people walk over them without knowing it. One of the lawyers answered him, Teacher, in saying these things you insult us also. And he said, Woe to you, lawyers also! For you load people with burdens hard to bear, and you yourselves do not touch the burdens with one of your fingers. Woe to you, for you build the tombs of the prophets whom your fathers killed, so you are witnesses, and you consent to the deeds of your fathers, for they killed them, and you build their tombs. Therefore also the wisdom of God said, I will send them prophets and apostles, some of whom they will kill and persecute, so that the blood of all the prophets shed from the foundation of the world may be charged against this generation, from the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, who perished between the altar and the sanctuary. Yes, I tell you, he will be required of this generation, or it will be required of this generation. Woe to you, lawyers, for you have taken away the key of knowledge. You did not enter yourselves, and you hindered those who were entering. As he went away from them, the scribes and the Pharisees began to press him hard and to provoke him to speak about many things, lying in wait for them to catch him in something he might say. Okay, so that is the end of Luke chapter 11. Tomorrow we'll read Luke chapter 12. Actually, funny thing about tomorrow, I'm not sure we'll be doing the live stream. Probably not tomorrow, and maybe not Sunday as well. We'll have to see on Sunday. All right, so in chapter... Bless you. in chapter 10 of The
I
Hobbit.
forgot to say. Dad's not doing the synopsis.
Go, Kimmy, go!
In chapter 10 of The Hobbit, let's see, there was like a big lake of lava, I think, and there was a town that was burning on it, and something about
And you burnt the town down, we know.
Dad, you burnt it down because you got the synopsis wrong too much.
Okay, go.
This is your third strike and now you're out.
But he did buy his pizza, so.
Yeah, that.
I kind of like the messed up synopsis.
No.
Oh, well, we got pizza without you!
Daniel?
Okay, so what actually happened was they were going down the river in the barrel raft, inside of the barrels, and so they go down and Bilbo, he was on the raft with the ring on, and what happened was they make it to this lake town. It's actually up there. And so what happens is Bilbo, he gets all the dwarves out. Some of them were, like, okay. They had a few bruises. But overall, they were fine. And others were literally near drowning. And so, he gets everybody out, and then they go over to the town, and they're like, hey, this guy, he's the king of the dwarves. And
Oh,
everybody...
I remember, and the elf dude is there. And the elf guy says, oh, weren't you guys the prisoners?
Yeah.
Joke's on us. Wow, you got out. Congratulations. You solved the exit room.
Exactly. They were more like, hey, these guys, they are trespassers on our land. And they were imprisoned because of blah, blah, blah. And
No reason.
the guy who was in charge of the town, he was like, is this true? And they were like, yeah, we were falsely imprisoned because we went through this road. And then we got lost because we were hungry and we saw their feast. And we're like, hey, let's go over and ask them if we can eat something because we're completely starving. So, and we know what happened after that. So, what happened is, the guy who's in charge of the town, he's like, this guy's not who he says he is. He's definitely not the king of the dwarves. And then, like, at the end of the chapter, he's like, okay, he's actually gonna go face that dragon? You know, I bet he is. I think he is. But even if he isn't, he's gonna die. Because this dragon is, like, no joke. And then, the elves, they go over and tell their king, hey, this guy, the guy who was imprisoned, he's actually the king of the dwarves. And he's like, oh, well, he's gonna die because he's gonna try to take back his land. And the dragon's there, and I bet, like, a bunch of dwarves can't take out a dragon because he doesn't know about Bilbo, but still. And that is about where we left off, right?
Sure. Alrighty.
Wait.
What's the first word?
I'm going to be telling you the first word. I knew it is not that this time.
And I just want to say that I have had positive accountability of this book for the whole time.
It is in the book. And I said that in the sentence. I said the first word in the sentence. In. It is in the book. Is that true?
Yes, but can I sit down, please? Gosh.
It is in the book.
You're like, I'm gonna sit in your seat, and I'm just gonna stay there. Daniel? Hi. Okay, so welcome to Heavy D Storytelling. I'm going to read you a story. Now, this is The Hobbit, and we're on chapter 11, which is a short chapter, and I was looking at it, and we could read 11 and 12, but it's 30 pages for the two of them together. Even though this is a short chapter, I think that we've got a long day tomorrow, and I think that we should cut it at a short chapter. That's my...
We'll see how everybody behaves.
Yeah. All right. So here we are, chapter 11 in the Doorstep. I also like having Luke and the Hobbit being the same chapter number. It's kind of cool. So, all right. In 2 days going, they rode right up the long lake and passed out into the river running. And now they could all see the lonely mountain towering grim and tall before them. The stream was strong, and they're going slow. At the end of the 3rd day, some miles up the river, they drew in to their left or western bank and disembarked. Here they were joined by the horses with other provisions and necessaries, and the ponies for their own use that had been sent to meet them. They packed what they could on their ponies, and the rest was made into a store under a tent. But none of the men of the town would stay with them even for the night, so near the shadow of the mountain. Not at any rate until the songs have come true, said they. It was either to believe in the dragon and it was easier to believe in the dragon, and less easy to believe in Thorin in these wild parts. Indeed, their stores had no need of any guard, for all the land was desolate and empty. So their escort left them, making off swiftly down the river and the showered paths, although the night was already drawing on. They spent a cold and lonely night, and their spirits fell. The next day they set out again. Balin and Bilbo rode behind, each leading another pony heavily laden beside him. The others were some way ahead, picking out a slow road, for there were no paths. They made northwest, slanting away from the river running, and drawing ever nearer and nearer to its great spur of the mountain that was flung out southward toward them. It was a weary journey, and a quiet and stealthy one. There was no laughter or song or sound of harps, and the pride and hopes which had stirred in their hearts at the singing of old songs by the lake died away to the plodding gloom. They knew that they were drawing near to the end of their journey, and that it might be a very horrible end. The land about them grew bleak and barren, though once, as Thorin told them, it had been green and fair. There was little grass, and before long there was neither bush nor tree, and only broken and blackened stumps to speak of ones long vanished. They were come to the desolation of the dragon, and they were come at the waning of the year. They reached the skirts of the mountain all the same without meeting any danger or any sign of the dragon other than the wilderness he had made about his lair. The mountain lay dark and silent before them, and ever higher above them. They made their first camp on the western side of the great southern spur, which ended in a height called Raven Hill. On this there had been an old watch-post, but they dared not climb it yet. It was too exposed. Before setting out to search the western spurs of the mountain for the hidden door on which all their hopes rested, Thorin sent out a scouting expedition to spy out the land to the south, where the front gate stood. For this purpose he chose Balin and Fili and Kili, and with them went Bilbo. They marched under the gray and silent cliffs to the feet of Raven Hill. There the river, after winding a wide loop over the valley of Dale, turned from the mountain on its road to the lake, flowing swiftly and noisily. Its bank was bare and rocky, tall and steep above the stream, and gazing out from it over the narrow water, foaming and splashing among many boulders, they could see in the wide valley, shadowed by the mountain's arms, the gray ruins of ancient houses, towers, and walls. "There lies all that is left of Dale," said Balin. "The mountain sides were green with wood, and all the sheltered valley rich and pleasant in the days when the bells rang in that town." He looked both sad and grim as he said this. He had been one of Thorin's companions on the day the dragon came. Yes. Okay, here is a picture. Actually, I'll wait just a second because I've got a gap. They did not dare to follow the river much further toward the gate, but they went on beyond the end of the southern spur until, lying hidden behind a rock, they could look out and see the dark cavernous opening on a great cliff wall between the arms of the mountain. Out of it the waters of the running river sprang, and out of it too there came a stream and a dark smoke. Nothing moved in the waste save the vapor and the water, and every now and again a black and ominous crow. The only sound was the sound of the stony water, and every now and again the harsh croak of a bird. Balin shuddered. "Let us return," he said. "We can do no good here, and I don't like these dark birds. They look like spies of evil. The dragon is still alive, and in the halls under the mountain, then, or I imagine so from the smoke," said the Hobbit. I'm sorry, that was the Hobbit. It didn't sound like the Hobbit speaking. "That does not prove it," said Balin, "though I don't doubt you are right. But he might be gone away some time, or he might be lying out on the mountainside keeping watch, and still I expect smokes and steams would come out of the gates. All the halls within must be filled with this foul reek." Are we having problems? I've got a picture to show everybody. And there is a picture of the mountain. All right. With such gloomy thoughts, followed ever by croaking crows above them, they made their weary way back to the camp. Only in June they had been guests of the fair house of Elrond, and though autumn was now crawling toward winter, that pleasant time now seemed years ago. They were alone in the perilous waste without hope of further help. They were at the end of their journey, but as far as ever it seemed from the end of their quest. None of them had much spirit left. Now, strange to say, Mr. Baggins had more than the others. He would often borrow Thorin's map and gaze at it, pondering over the runes and the messages of the moon letters Elrond had read. It was he that made the dwarves begin the dangerous search on the western slopes for the secret door. They moved their camp then to a long valley, narrower than the great dale in the south, where the gates of the river stood, and walled with lower spurs of the mountain. Two of these here thrust forward west from the main pass in long, steep-sided ridges that fell ever downwards toward the plain. On this western side there were fewer signs of the dragon's marauding feet, and there was some grass for their ponies. From this western camp, shadowed all day by cliff and wall, until the sun began to sink toward the forest, day by day they toiled in parties, searching for paths up the mountainside. If the map was true, somewhere high above the cliff at the valley's head must stand the secret door. Day by day they came back to their camp without success. But at last, unexpectedly, they found what they were seeking. Fili and Kili and the Hobbit went back one day down the valley and scrambled among the tumbled rocks at its southern corner. About midday, creeping behind a great stone that stood alone like a pillar, Bilbo came on what looked like rough steps going upwards. Following these excitedly, he and the dwarves found traces of a narrow track, often lost, often rediscovered, that wandered on to the top of the southern ridge and brought them at last to a still narrower ledge. which turned north across the face of the mountain. Looking down, they saw that they were at the top of the cliff at the valley's head, and were gazing down on to their own camp below. Silently clinging to the rocky wall on their right, they went in single file along the ledge till the wall opened, and they turned into a little steep-walled bay, grassy-floored, still and quiet. Its entrance, which they had found, could not be seen from below because of the overhang of the cliff, nor from further off because it was so small that it looked like a dark crack and no more. It was not a cave, and was open to the sky above, but at its inner end a flat wall rose up that in the lower part, close to the ground, was as smooth and upright as mason's work, but without a joint or crevice to be seen. No sign was there of post or lintel or threshold, nor any sign of bar or bolt or keyhole, yet they did not doubt that they had found the door at last. They beat on it, they thrust and pushed at it, they implored it to move, they spoke fragments of broken spells of opening, and nothing stirred. At last, tired out, they rested on the grass at its feet, and then at evening began their long climb down. There was excitement in the camp that night. In the morning they prepared to move once more. Only Beaufort and Bomber were left behind to guard the ponies and such stores as they had brought with them from the river. The others went down the valley and up the newly found path, and so to the narrow ledge. Along this they could carry no bundles or packs, so narrow and breathless was it, with a fall of 150 feet beside them on to sharp rocks below. But each of them took a good coil of rope, wound tight about his waist, and so at last, without mishap, they reached the little grassy bay. There they made their third camp, hauling up what they needed from below with their ropes. Down the same way they were able occasionally to lower one of the more active dwarves, such as Keeley, to exchange such news as there was, or to take a share in the guard below, while Beaufort was hauled up to the higher camp. Bomber would not come up either the rope or the path. "I am too fat for such fly walks," he said. "I should turn dizzy and tread on my beard, and then you would be 13 again." And he knotted ropes. And the knotted ropes are too slender for my weight. Luckily for him, that was not true, as you will see. In the meanwhile, some of them explored the ledge beyond the opening and found a path that led higher and higher on to the mountain, but they did not dare to venture very far that way, nor was there much use in it. Out up there was a silence reigned, broken by no bird or sound except that of the wind of the crannies of stone. They spoke low and never called or sang, for danger brooded in every rock. The others, who were busy with the secret of the door, had no more success. They were too eager to trouble about the runes or the moon letters, but tried without resting to discover where exactly in the smooth face of the rock the door was hidden. They had brought picks and tools of many sorts from Lake Town, and at first they tried to use these, but when they struck the stone, the handles splintered and jarred their arms cruelly, and the steel heads broke or bent like lead. Mining work, they saw clearly, was no good against the magic that had shut this door, and they grew terrified, too, of the echoing noise. Bilbo found sitting on the doorstep lonesome and wearisome. There was not a doorstep, of course, really, but they used to call the little grassy space between the wall and the opening the doorstep in fun, remembering Bilbo's words long ago at the unexpected party in the Hobbit's hole, when he said they could sit at the doorstep till they thought of something. And sit and think they did, or wandered aimlessly about, and glummer they became. Their spirits had risen a little at the discovery of the path. but now they sank into their boots, and yet they would not give it up and go away. The hobbit was no longer much brighter than the dwarfs. He would do nothing but sit with his back to the rock face and stare away west through the opening, over the cliff, over the wide lands to the black wall of Mirkwood, and to the distances beyond, in which he sometimes thought he could catch glimpses of the misty mountains, small and far. If the dwarves asked him what he was doing, he answered, "You said sitting on the doorstep and thinking would be my job, not to mention getting inside. So I am sitting and thinking." But I am afraid he was not thinking much of the job, but of what lay beyond the blue distance, the quiet western land, and the hill and his hobbit hole under it. A large grey stone lay in the center of the grass, and he stared moodily at it or watched the great snails. They seemed to love the little shut-in bay with its walls of cool rock, and there were many of them of huge size crawling slowly and strictly along its sides. "Tomorrow begins the last week of autumn," said Thorin one day. "And winter comes after autumn," said Beaver. "And next year after that," said Dwellin. "And our beards will grow till they hang down from the cliff to the valley before anything happens here. What is our burglar doing for us, since he has got an invisible ring and ought to be a specially excellent performer now? I am beginning to think he might go through the front gate and spy things out a bit." Bilbo heard this. The dwarves were on the rocks just above the enclosure where he was sitting, and, good gracious, he thought, so that is what they are beginning to think, is it? It is always poor me that has to get them out of their difficulties, at least since the wizard left. Whatever am I going to do? I might have known that something dreadful would happen to me in the end. I don't think I could bear to see the unhappy valley of Dale again. And as for that steaming gate—" That night he was very miserable and hardly slept. Next day the dwarves all went wandering off in various directions. Some were exercising the ponies down below, some were roving about the mountain-side. All day Bilbo sat gloomily in the grassy bay, gazing at the stone, or out west through the narrow opening. He had a queer feeling that he was waiting for something. Perhaps the wizard will suddenly come back today, he thought. If he lifted his head, he could see a glimpse of the distant forest. As the sun turned west, there was a gleam of yellow upon its far roof, as if the light caught the last pale leaves. Soon he saw the orange ball of the sun sinking toward the level of his eyes. He went to the opening, and there, pale and faint, was a thin new moon above the rim of earth. At that very moment he heard a sharp crack behind him. There on the grey stone in the grass was an enormous thrush, nearly coal-black, its pale yellow breast freckled with dark spots. Crack! It had caught a snail and was knocking it on the stone. Crack! Crack! Suddenly Bilbo understood. Forgetting all danger, he stood on the ledge and hailed the dwarves, shouting and waving. Those that were nearest came tumbling over the rocks and as fast as they could along the ledge to him, wondering what on earth was the matter. The others shouted to be hauled up the ropes. Except Bombur, of course. He was asleep. Quickly, Bilbo explained. They all fell silent, the hobbits standing by the grey stone, and the dwarves with wagging beards watching impatiently. The sun sank lower and lower, and their hopes fell. It sank into a belt of reddened cloud and disappeared. The dwarves groaned, but still Bilbo stood almost without moving. The little moon was dipping to the horizon. Evening was coming on. Then suddenly, when their hope was lowest, a red ray of the sun escaped like a finger through a rent in the cloud. A gleam of light came straight through the opening into the bay and fell on the smooth rock face. The old thrush, who had been watching from a high perch with beady eyes and head cocked on one side, gave a sudden trill. There was a loud crack. A flake of rock split from the wall and fell. A hole appeared suddenly about 3 feet from the ground. Quickly, trembling, lest the chance should fade, the dwarves rushed to the rock and pushed in vain. "The key! The key!" cried Bilbo. "Where is Thorin?" Thorin hurried up. "The key!" shouted Bilbo. "The key that went with the map! Try it now while there is still time." Then Thorin stepped up and drew the key on its chain from round his neck. He put it into the hole. It fitted, and it turned. Snap! The gleam went out. The sun sank. The moon was gone, and evening sprang into the sky. Now they all pushed together, and slowly a part of the rock wall gave way. Long, straight cracks appeared and widened. A door 5 feet high and 3 broad was outlined and slowly, without a sound, swung inwards. It seemed as if darkness flowed out like a vapor from the hole in the mountain's side, and deep darkness, in which nothing could be seen, lay before their eyes, a yawning mouth leading in and down. That's the end of chapter 11. Z's. See what I did there? Yeah.
What?
There's no eating in that chapter, though, so...
11
we are going to save chapter 12. My voice is giving out, and I need to get some rest for tomorrow's journey that we have. The first word is for, and the chapter is called Inside Information. So, we will have to save that for tomorrow, or rather, probably Sunday. Realistically, I don't think that we'll be home too late on Sunday night. So, we love you too, Rebecca. I'm going to give you just a little tiny sneak peek of what's in store in the next chapter. And it's in this picture right here. All right. So, I'm going to show it to the family now. So that's the sneak peek.
Whoa! Look at the dragon!
That is so pretty.
Sneak peek again.
I love that dragon.
All right. So,
That dragon.
just a little sneak peek. So hopefully that gets your interest into listening. Yes, we will read one more chapter on Sunday, as I described. So, good night, everybody, and we will see you on Sunday. God bless you.
Sunday.